give us the strength to do what we need to do in a more effective way for the citizens that we don't know so good. So in Jesus' name, we thank you now. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. I will now entertain a motion for agenda approval.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor indicate, excuse me.
I don't see an agenda.
The agenda was not put out to each counselor. I'm following the agenda as it should be. I have a copy of it. Okay, and it's a very short agenda. But if you do need to see it, I can text
Let me
this.
peruse it, if you will.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Agenda approval is number 4, and then number 5 is that discussion. And number 6 is adjournment.
Second, Madam.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Thank you. I think did we get all in favor? I think we had discussion by Mayor Pro Tem. Now, all in favor indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The ayes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to let you finish.
The ayes have it.
I just have something. Horton needs to be in here.
Yes, he does.
I'll get him.
And I did not know he was not in here. Of course, we have a quorum because Mayor Pro Tem is here. And we will continue our discussion. This is in order.
Yes, ma'am, just a brief recess.
You want a brief recess now? All right. I'm going to take a brief recess of maybe about 2 minutes, and we'll come back to a regular agenda. All right, we're out of recess. We had a couple of minutes of recess to take care of some things, and now we're back in session. We have approved the agenda, and we're actually at a consideration and discussion, and this is where I would yield to...
Madam Mayor, I believe we need to have the statement of disclosure entered into the record, and I'll be happy to do that since the city clerk is not present.
Yes, sir. That's what I was looking for, statement of disclosure.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you. So I'm glad you interrupted.
Yes,
all right,
ma'am.
Sir.
Elizabeth City's Code of Ethics provides that public officials and employees be independent, impartial, and responsible to the public, that governmental decisions and policy be made in proper channels of the governmental structure, that public office not be used for personal gain, and that the public have confidence in the integrity of its government. In recognition of these goals and in keeping with the ethical standards of conduct for city public officials and employees, disclosure of interest in legislative action must be stated for the public record, as per City of Elizabeth City Code of Ordinances, Section 32.04. The mayor or any member of the city council who has an interest as defined in Section 32.02 of the City of Elizabeth City Code of Ordinances, in any official act or action before the council, shall publicly disclose on the record of the council the nature and extent of such interest, and shall withdraw from any consideration of the matter if excused by the council pursuant to GS Section 160A-75. Thank you.
Thank you
Madam Mayor.
very much, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
This is an emergency meeting, and sometimes the order or protocol of the agenda, some of the items may not be in place as we had anticipated because of the expeditious way it was done. So we're going to make sure that we stay within the statutes. We are now actually at a point where we can have the consideration and discussion which lends toward why we have the emergency meeting. Councilman Horton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First and foremost, I want to thank the members of the council that are present. I think even though this is, as we've always let it be known publicly, that this is a county matter with a county-involved deputy, I think it speaks volumes that with it taking place in the city, that we as city council, that we have a voice and that we have listened to the concerns of our constituents. I would like to say that I spoke with Manager Freeman earlier, and I asked Manager Freeman if the members of the family, the immediate family, could come and be a part of this meeting, and they are present at this time. They walked in, and I ran it by the manager. It is the son, along with the mother and the fiance. They are here because they are, even though we're not the governing body that has answers for them, they are concerned about the transparency and the accountability of this matter. And I spoke with Councilman Brooks and Councilman Atkins, and we are of the opinion that we as the city need to make a request to move forward with officially asking, as we asked unofficially in our last emergency meeting, that there would be a record given of that recording. I just left the meeting with the sheriff, and the sheriff has said that his hands are tied because of the local DA. And I am of the opinion that we need to make an official request to the local Pasquotank County Sheriff, the District Attorney Andrew Womble, and the FBI that this body footage, this camera footage would be released. Madam Mayor, the reason I say that is because I realize as a resident of Elizabeth City, if I want to go buy a pair of dress shoes, there's only a couple places that I could go. And I'm not going to terrorize or try to burn or destruct those places because I live here. But now that this issue has become a national issue and persons from the length and the breadth of this nation know about what we have going on, they will come here because of the lack of transparency and the lack of accountability, and they will cause destruction in our city. So as a council member who has an oath and an obligation to protect the best interests of the city, I am here today to have a conversation that we ask our local officials to release that video. And be prepared if they do not to go and do litigation in the courts. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I think we need to clear up the first matter.
Yes, sir.
You know, attorney, is it legal what has occurred thus far?
You mean in terms of the meeting and bringing in family members?
Yes.
If the council approves the admission of the family members, I believe it is in order. Yes, sir.
And I think you said 3 of you all made the decision. That's not the majority. So we need to clear that up before we go any farther.
Motion to approve the entrance of the family.
All right, as a point of order, now there is a motion to approve the entry of the family members, and there are 3 family members. Is that what you indicated?
That is correct.
All right, the names of those family members are? Could you repeat what they say, Attorney Morgan, please?
Gerard Farabee, Madam Mayor.
Gerard Farabee.
Mia Farabee.
Mia Farabee.
And Arthur Alston.
And Arthur Alston.
Yes, ma'am. And if
Okay.
you all please just would state for the record your relationship to Mr. Brown.
I'm the second oldest child.
Second oldest child. mother to the second oldest child,
Okay.
and fiance to the mother of this oldest second child.
Uh,
Mayor Pro Tem?
I guess since Mr. Spence is the only other person that was not aware, just out of respect, y'all, I would like to know information before I get to the meeting. Give me a decision of whether to go to the meeting or not. That's my opinion. Now, I don't know what Mr. Spence has to say about it.
That was my thinking too. I just don't want to get us caught between letting people in and not letting people in. Being last week we wouldn't let they're already in here now, but last week we wouldn't let the news reporters in, and this week we let them in. So, but they're in here now, so I just like being informed before the meeting. I don't be blindsided.
Okay, excuse me. There is a motion, and we can go to discussion, but there is a motion on the floor, and we need to at least see if we can get a second before we have discussion.
He did second.
I second.
He had already.
Yeah, I didn't hear the second.
I second.
Oh, you seconded? I did not hear that. Okay, thank you, sir. There has been a second to that. Now we are we can officially have some discussion about the entrance. And we've heard from Mayor Pro Tem. Of course, let's see what Councilman Atkins has to say.
Okay, yes, I was informed. I can't speak to the other ones not being informed or not called or whatever the case may be. But let's remember, y'all, we have the family in here in front of us. They're grieving. I mean, we need to get on. It's a time and place, so either we want them to be here. They've asked, been brought in here. If we, let's get on with this, please.
Excuse me. I just want to say that, of course, I was not informed, and I am the leader of the meeting, and I did not give the okay to have anyone in the last emergency meeting, and I do want to remain fair. I want the family to know, and I think they already know, is that we give our highest condolences. I don't know whether you were invited to speak.
I invited them.
Okay. You invited them.
I invited them.
But did you invite them?
I invited them, and there's a motion on the floor for them to allow to be in this meeting. And after with them grieving, we do not need a discussion. And I make a motion to call for the question. You can rule it out of order, but I will not have that discussion.
Well, we're going to, according to, and we can yield to our attorney, we have to follow protocol no matter what meetings that we have. It is not that we're trying to exclude anyone or what have you. But again, I was not aware of it as the leader of the meeting. And so I have to allow discussion. I do not have, understand where you're coming from, Councilman Horton, and I understand where anyone else who was involved in the invitation. But your mayor needs to know about the invitation. I understand that we opened just before the meeting that you talked to our manager. But it has to be a consensus that we have people invited in the meeting. And I, as being the leader, do not want it to get for news reporters or anyone else say that the mayor allowed certain people in and then other people didn't allow them in. Now, my question is, do you, what further, before I go to others to do discussion, my question, next question is, did you allow them just to sit in on the meeting, or did you tell them that they are going to be able to speak?
Madam Mayor, at this point, just like the meeting was called, we came to the town hall and we called the meeting. Mm-hmm. You all were notified of the meeting being called via email. I, in return, told our manager that I would like to have a couple of the family members present because I've been an advocate for them. I've been working for them. Okay? So at that time, with him being our manager and granting it, if there was some discussion, he could have sent an email out. I think at this point, we're here, and I'm just prepared to go through the agenda and go home and not make this a discussion.
I understand that, sir, but as the leader of the council and the meeting,
Mayor,
I have
think
to,
we're going the wrong direction.
excuse me,
That's not what we came here for.
Excuse me, we're going to follow protocol of any meeting that we have. And I'm very understanding, but we have to give discussion, and I'm assuming that the family members, they're listening. And of course, understand that if we have meetings, there are protocols. Otherwise, we are all held accountable, not just 2 or 3 members of the council. Now,
No, I had my hand up for discussion. No, I had my hand up for discussion.
excuse me.
Yeah, no, wait a minute. I had my hand up for discussion.
I did not say,
Yes,
I haven't ruled on it yet, Mr.
yeah.
I
Yes,
saw
I
your
know.
hand.
Yeah,
I saw your
okay.
hand.
I just
I
wanna know.
have not ruled on it yet. Saw your hand. And I will recognize you. But I did, as the leader of the meeting, have to make these statements because I will be held accountable. And the rest of you will also. And I see the nodding of the heads of the family members back there who is understanding what I am saying. But we're going to go and see what you have to say,
Listen,
Councilman Brooks.
this is right. I didn't know that it was that this was gonna go. I thought we were just gonna talk about what I try to keep you informed on. I didn't know that was gonna come. But anyway, isn't it on the website now as we talk?
Yes, sir.
The only thing I see is that I don't see no problem with them sitting here, although I didn't know about it either. Because if you looking at it on the website, you can see it anywhere. If they just sit there, the only difference is they're in our presence if they don't say anything. Everybody in Elizabeth City see what we're saying. Now, I didn't have any say so, but it's okay. That's the family. They're grieving. If they want to see it firsthand, it's good. And when you said 2 or 3 people, I didn't have, that was a last minute thing as I understand it. I had nothing to do with it. All I wanted to do was call a meeting so the public can see what the city is doing. Because we are accountable, although that we wasn't the one that caused the incident, we're accountable too. That's what I want to get to. We don't need to keep right on backtracking and going through stuff that's really moot. It's really moot. Wait a minute. No, you can't say call for the question. Point of order. I'm talking. You don't call for the question while I'm talking.
Please, go ahead.
No, I'm
please.
talking. You can't do that while I'm talking. You know what I'm saying?
You have the floor, sir. Go
I know
ahead.
I have the floor. Now, because I didn't interrupt nobody else, and I'm saying this because I know the public is listening. We don't want to look like a clown act when we're supposed to go together in one force. I personally don't see anything wrong with them sitting here. I don't see nothing wrong with it sitting here. That shouldn't be in the discussion. We trying to figure out what we need to do as council to support them as they grieve for their loved ones. And here we talking about whether they can sit there in person and hear it or not, or be on the website and look at it. We know you are the figurehead, but you got to understand this: the council is the one that vote that determine whether to let them sit here or not. You don't make that determination. A majority vote make that determination. You can't say, well, they got to go out and we say with the majority that they can sit here, and if you do, we can vote and overrule your decision. So let's keep it. It ain't about us. It's about this family member is grieving because their loved one is gone, and we talking about whether they can sit here in person and look at it or be on the website and look at it because they can't see it. We're live screaming it as we talk. So let's keep focused on what we need to do as accountable because, yes, the sheriff department calls it, but the city is part of the county. So what happened is we're as accountable as they are, and it happened in the 3rd Ward. And see, we don't need to keep betting it. If you want to call for the question, when I finish talking, you can do that all you want to. But this is the first thing I said about it, and I want to keep right on backing up. We got to do something to make sure that we continue to go forth on the right direction and let the family know what we as a united council is doing to make sure it's a speedy process. That's all this meeting was called for. I didn't come here to discuss whether they can sit in and protocol or not. The question is out there. We'll vote on it. Don't keep, if you vote against it, you vote against it. They know that I'm voting for it because I don't see nothing wrong if they sit here. I didn't hear nobody say they can come up there and ask them questions or have them come up to the mic and say all this and that. There's nowhere for them to speak to. So I really don't understand what the discussion is about and everybody want to be this and that. I'm in charge. I'm going to do this. That's moot right now. It's about the family. Everybody, listen, we got people coming from other states and all over the United States and wherever they come from to hear how the city can go forward. And here we are discussing whether the family can sit at a live meeting or not. And it becomes an issue. I don't understand. Just
before I recognize you, Mayor Pro Tem, is each meeting that we have, and I think I've already said this, is that we follow rules of procedure. And I have not indicated one way or the other, because part of the rules of procedure, of course, is to give you a chance to do discussion. And that is what we're doing. And I'm recognizing each one of you in order. And I'm going now to Mayor Pro Tem. Recognizing him, he has the floor.
Hi, Mayor. Things will get better, baby. If we don't go through protocol, y'all, why are we expecting the sheriff to go through protocol? We got to do things the right way. Call for the question, please.
All right. Second. Okay, there's a call for the question. And the question is, would you repeat that again, Councilman Horton?
That we allow the family to attend the meeting.
All right, all those in favor, put your hands up, please. Well, that seems unanimous. Okay. Now, I think the discussion went on is because we didn't know to what extent. If it is just to sit it there, it's no problem. Because we do have our condolences and we understand where you are, and we do have people who are adamant about it. But we do follow protocol. We do follow rules of procedure whenever we have a meeting, because sometimes that even your mayor can be led by emotions. And when we start leading by emotions, we do not follow the rules, and it becomes chaos. So that's why we did it, and I want the family to please understand that. Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Mayor, I just would like to enter this into the record that when you say follow protocol, I, as the one who invited them, informed the manager. So I don't have time to call everybody and inform everybody. Thank you.
You need to take the time to form everybody.
I
if it's
don't
simple.
need to take the time.
Why
have
not?
A manager. I didn't take the time and call everybody and tell them about the meeting, the administration. Thank you, Mayor, I have nothing to say about it any further.
Well, thank you for that. But your mayor does, and your mayor will.
Go right ahead.
Is that I am the leader of the council. I should have known, and I want you to understand that.
So is that my fault that you didn't know?
I thought you had said all you can say. Thank you. So I have to be very careful in making sure that I follow the rules of procedure and that I be informed of what is going to happen in the council chambers prior to any meeting, whether it's emergency, regular, or just a work session. Thank you. Councilman Atkins.
I just want to remind everybody that we got 6,000 people watching us right now. And, you know, we're making a fool of ourselves. I just want that to be said in the record.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything else to say? All right. Now, we're going to get back to where we have consideration and discussion. And I'm going to yield to our manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There are some things that I would clear up after this meeting in reference to the procedures that will follow.
All right. Thank you, sir.
There are two matters. There was a meeting in my office this morning and a request for this emergency meeting to make an official request to request the body camera footage. When I began to have that conversation with Councilman Brooks and Councilman Horton, I informed them both that it needed to be a writing. At that point, we reached out to Attorney Morgan, and Attorney Morgan informed us that that wasn't his area of expertise, which most municipal attorneys don't practice in that area. Attorneys, we get licenses to practice law, and then we determine what area of practice we go into. And so to that end, I contacted Attorney Chance Lynch, and he talked through what that process needed to be. Two of the points that he and I agreed upon, and then he discussed with the group, was that verbal notification has very little, if any, impact in a criminal justice process and a judicial process, and it does not hold any weight when it comes to notice. And so to that end, we talked through the North Carolina General Statute that was enacted about 3 years ago in reference to body cam footage. To that end, you have to make an official request to the Sheriff's Department. Once you make that request, the Sheriff's Department has 3 days to either respond or not respond, and the court views a non-response as a denial. At that point, the requesting party can then petition the Superior Court of the county in which the occurrence took place to receive that body cam footage. We talked through what the challenges of that request would be. The biggest of them would be standing. Standing means that you have suffered an injury. And because of the way that this particular incident took place, the city of Elizabeth City would have to make a strong argument for injury. Nevertheless, what is in front of you today is I have 2 letters, and Attorney Lynch and I both agree that the second one is the most impactful, is that we make a request to the Sheriff's Department, to the District Attorney's Office, and to the SBI requesting to have the body cam footage released to the council and the general public. Procedurally, that will have some moving parts to it, but that is the general directive of what's in front of me today. I have the letter that was drafted in front, and so what I would need from this council is a vote on whether or not to officially make that request to the Sheriff's Department, and then subsequently, if denied, which we think it will be denied, if it is denied, to have this council's consent to petition the Superior Court here in Pasquotank County, which is Judicial District 1, to release that body cam footage to this council and the public.
All right. Thank you, sir.
So my question is, if it's denied, do we need to come back or we can do it now?
No, if it's denied, you all can give me that authority today to go forward.
Okay, gotcha.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, Attorney Morgan, are you in agreement?
Well, I'll be the first to say that when I spoke early this morning with Mr. Horton, I knew very little about the law, but I have done some research over the past several hours, and I gave each of you a copy of the relevant general statute. It's GS 132-1.4A. Now, there's actually 5 pages of printed material dealing with this statute, so it's very cumbersome. But I would just like to spend a couple of minutes giving you my interpretation of it and where we perhaps need to go. As the city manager alluded to, our biggest issue as a city in making this request is the concept of legal standing. Do we have standing to make this request? And again, just to give you the definition, it's the ability of a party, in this case the city would be the party, to demonstrate to the court a sufficient connection to and harm from the law or action challenged in order to support or justify that party's participation in the case. What that means is the judicial system doesn't allow someone to walk in off the street and just get involved in a lawsuit. You have to have suffered some harm or have some reasonable connection to the matter at issue. As I understand the statute, I'd like just to kind of walk through it briefly with you all, if that's okay. If you would look at the second page, and this is page 52, as Mr. Freeman alluded to, the request needs to go to the custodial law enforcement agency. Well, I know nothing really about the case other than what I've seen on the news and read in the newspapers. At this point, I'm not sure if the Sheriff's Department or the SBI is actually the custodial party. I don't know if those records have been turned over to the SBI or maybe still be in the possession of the Sheriff's Department. So I would recommend that if the request goes out, it go to both agencies. So
yeah, and we included all 3 for that same reason,
all right,
sir.
Very good. Thank you. And then, as Mr. Freeman mentioned, the head or the person in charge of the law enforcement agency in question has 3 days to act on the request. I think this is very important. If you look at page 2 again, and this is section C, you see 5 numbers there, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The head of the custodial law enforcement agency may only disclose a recording to the following. Number 1, the person whose image is shown on the recording. Well, obviously, Mr. Brown is deceased, so he's not able to make that request. Secondly, a personal representative of an adult person whose image or voice is in the recording if the adult person has consented to the disclosure. As I understand that, the spouse of Mr. Brown or an adult child of Mr. Brown would qualify there, as I understand the statute. Number 4 is really, I think, the most relevant one here, and that is a personal representative of a deceased person whose image or voice is in the recording. In order for that to occur, Mr. Brown would need to, a family member would need to petition the clerk to be appointed as either administrator in the case of not having a will or the executor of Mr. Brown's estate if he indeed had a last will. That is, in my opinion, the most relevant person who could request that footage through the sheriff's department. Well, the sheriff then, under Section D, you'll see that there are 6 issues that he or she is supposed to consider when dealing with the request. And I am sure or feel confident that numbers 5 and 6 would be thrown back at us as being reasons not to release the footage. And that is that the disclosure would create a serious threat to the fair, impartial, and orderly administration of justice, or if confidentiality is necessary to protect either an active or inactive internal or criminal investigation. Well, we have to assume something's being done internally to investigate the issue. Well, again, at the end of the 3-day period, if the sheriff or SBI, in this case, doesn't act on the request or denies the request, in my opinion, the only recourse that the city would have would be under Section G, and that is on page 54. And that is, that allows people like press organizations and so forth to make these requests, claiming that obviously the release of the information is necessary to advance a compelling public interest. Number 3, I think, would cause us trouble again, and that has to deal again with the issue of standing. That the person requesting the release is seeking to obtain evidence to determine legal issues in a current or potential court proceeding. Well, for the life of me, I do not see where the city would be a party to any lawsuit involving what happened earlier this week. In this case, again, there were no city police involved. Everything that occurred between Mr. Brown and the Pasquotank County Sheriff's Department and I guess the Dare County Sheriff's Department. I've heard some mention that maybe Clemens may have been involved too, but in any event, certainly no city police were involved. So I certainly support the council's desire to get this information out so that everyone can see exactly what happened that morning. But from a purely legal point of view, I don't feel good about our prospects in having the court rule that the city is entitled to have this released. Now, Mr. Manager, if you think I've spoken out of turn, please.
No. We talked briefly this morning, and I spoke as an attorney and I spoke as your manager, and we raised those same concerns. Attorney Lynch raised those same concerns in terms of possible outcomes, and we both agreed that standing would be the highest hurdle that we would have to overcome to even make it a feasible argument. So I agree 100%.
All right, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
So you are saying it would maybe be out of our
Jurisdiction. Out of our jurisdiction.
out of our jurisdiction. But if a family member would take on certain titles, that it would be better for that person to do it.
In my opinion, there is no question but that if someone were to qualify as either executor or administrator of Mr. Brown's estate, the sheriff would have to act on that request because the law requires him to, or SBI is the case.
That could be the wife.
Well, it just depends on whom the clerk of Superior Court approves to be the person. If Mr. Brown had a last will, the will itself would name the executor. If there were no will, then the next of kin could petition the court, and that could be an adult, child, or a spouse.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Councilman Horton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Morgan and Mr. Manager, thank you for your expertise or your knowledge on this situation is very helpful, and we definitely appreciate it. My desire, and I believe when I spoke with Councilman Brooks and Councilman Atkins, our desire is where we are right now as a community. We have, of course, a grieving family. We have a grieving community. We have an incident that took place in the city. Regardless of who was involved, it took place here in the city. And what alarms me, and the reason that I'm asking for, for us to be proactive is as I mentioned earlier, the level of unrest in the community. So step one, as the manager outlined to us, according to the law you read to us, was to ask for the body cameras to be released. And they have 3 days to respond. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. But again,
now, I'm not talking about the litigation.
No, I know that, but I'm saying the request to the custodial law enforcement agency, I really don't see where the city would fit into one of those 5 categories that's mentioned there on page 52 of the handout towards the top.
Okay.
So obviously a family member, the administrator of Mr. Brown's estate, the executor of his estate, that person clearly has standing to request it. But
okay.
I think we're hard pressed to show where the city fits in one of those 5 categories.
Okay. Now, is this for the legal proceeding or for the person who has custody?
Well, that is the request to the custodian of the footage. We can go as a city, just as any press group could, to Section G and immediately file the action in the Superior Court. But again, I don't feel very good about our prospects because I'm not sure that we still would have standing.
Understand. And I appreciate your comments. What my concern is, as this family in our community has made it known that they want to see this footage. We as a council just met and we made it known that we want peace in the city. And this would show, this letter of intent, it may never go to litigation, but it shows that we as a council agree that this footage should be released. I'm not a lawyer.
Yes, sir. I certainly agree that it sends the message to the community and to the nation that the council wants to see the footage and wants it to be released.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moore. And as a council member, and I believe that's the message we want to send. I'm not an attorney. I can't get into litigation. You sent me all this. I don't understand it because it's not my legal lingo.
I'm glad I had 3 hours myself to review it. I'll put it that way.
But what I do understand is that we need accountability. Where there's no accountability, it's a liability. And that's why the counselors, we've come together and I petition my fellow counselors as an act of an image, not even going to the legality part. The family knows what they could do. They have attorneys and stuff. This is not about them. This is about the city of Elizabeth City. I applaud each and every one of us on this DIOS, even though a while ago we had a little moment with a procedural matter, and that's fine. But every one of us around this DIOS supports this family, and every one of us supports Elizabeth City. And doing this letter, which Mr. Freeman said he has 2, and the second one is the one that he recommends, and he's our manager. And I feel as we as a council, we should move forward with that letter being sent to the sheriff, to the SBA, and the local district attorney as an act of us as a council standing and wanting this footage released. And Madam Mayor, with that being said, I would like to make a motion that we go with the letter that our manager has as an act of us as a council
standing in transparency, wanting this footage released. That's my motion.
Second.
Motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's a motion on the floor, and there has been a second. We're in discussion mode. Councilman Spence?
I think Councilman Brooks has his hand first.
Who?
I think Councilman Brooks has his hand first.
You pointed to?
Yes, ma'am.
Pointed to, okay, go ahead.
Yes. And all this happened in the 3rd Ward. Councilman Spence and myself are in the 3rd Ward. I've been trying to keep quiet, try to not say that much, because I'm proud of the people of Elizabeth City, how they are making sure that it's ever before us and supporting the city. And I listened at the legal, Jumbo, what I hear is that, and you said it so nicely, you are of the opinion. And what you got to understand is, well, what should be made known, not what you have to understand, what should be known is that the city have to show the family that we are behind them, not just by words, but through action. And see, it's very hurtful. In other cities, when something like this happened, they release the cat almost immediately. And it is suspect when they won't release the body cam and they claim that it's one. And when you look at the CNN, it's hurtful. They hear the FBI say that they have no control over whether the body cam release. And hear the sheriff department say they're not going to release it unless you get a petition from the court. So all that other stuff that goes in there that you read to us and so thoroughly said, that's pretty good. But I asked you a question, Mr. Morgan. Is the city part of the county?
We are.
All right, then. That's our fit. We are part of the county. And the county did an injustice, in my view, inside the city, but not only inside the city, in the ward that I represent. And I stand flat-footed and say, I will not back down. They know that I'm supportive of the people in the 3rd Ward, even in the whole city. But we fit, because you keep saying we don't fit. We fit. The city is part of the county. We don't fit. And all the other stuff that you're talking, as far as the custodian, that's fine. We talked, it was a good conversation we had. You send it to the sheriff department, you send it to the FBI, and send it to the DA. You know, somebody can get those cameras released. I'm gonna say the body cam released. The problem we have is we don't need ACLU and all these other entities coming to Elizabeth City and wondering why and doing the same thing that we're trying to do. We're not trying to force the legal system to do anything. We want things to be transparent. We use the word transparency all the time. And it seems to me, if this is a national epidemic, the murder of black men, I won't say unarmed because we don't know the facts. The murder of black men is an epidemic. And all we're asking for is to release the body cam. For what reason would anyone have that believe that there is no possibility of guilt not to show the body cam? We don't need other entities, again, coming into Elizabeth City and still forcing the issue, the body cam. Something as simple as body cam. And I believe that what the motion was made, I go along with the motion, because if we submit it, if the family and friends know that we were behind them and trying to get the body cams instead of just sitting there. I am disappointed in the county commissioners. I'm disappointed in them. I say this, I am disappointed in them. That's their sheriff department. I'm disappointed. And we always talk about joint meetings with the county, joint meetings with the county. If there ever was a time that we need a joint meeting with the county commissioners, it is now. And everybody's sitting there and waiting, not doing anything. And I share with you, doing nothing is not an option. It is not an option. Just sit back and see what happens. So I agree with the motion in order to go ahead and send that forward. And if the courts say that we don't fit, then why don't the city just stop paying county taxes? Because we do fit, because we are part of the county. So you can't eliminate our accountability and our responsibility in this stuff, although we didn't cause it. Thank you, Ms. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Councilman Spence?
Yes, ma'am. I I listened to the attorney, and I understand what he's saying. The legal part, I understand all that. Um, I have a problem with. First, I have a problem with the sheriff not including the chief of police, or at least not letting him have the body cam footage, because ultimately, the chief of police is responsible for the city. He's for the governor of this city. And if anything goes wrong in the city, the chief is going to be accountable for it. So I feel like sending this letter to the three entities. He said we may not have might not have them stand. Let's send it. It don't cost us anything. It's not going to cost us anything to send it. If they turn us down, they turn us down. If we appeal it and go to the judge and he turns us down, he turns us down. But I think we do need to send it, and it's a good site for the citizens. It's a good site for the family. I happen to be in Third Ward, where it happened at. I don't know how many of y'all knew Mr. Brown. I personally knew him. I've been knowing it for years, but so it's a little different when you know somebody and something happens. However, we have to just show people that we care. And we all, everybody, you can tell by the conversation, everybody up here is passionate about what they do. Everybody. Even with the starting out, I don't think starting out it was wrong or crazy. I think it was our passion of doing things right and in order. So the first thing, I wasn't disagreeing with them being in here. I was just trying to cover us as far as policy and procedure. So it's nothing personally against that, but we have to do things in decency and order. So that's why I'm saying if we send that letter and the sheriff tell us no, okay, then we can authorize him tonight to send another one to the courts and be done with it. Now, if they tell us no and they say we don't fit this, so be it. We did what we're supposed to do. We put forth an effort to fix the issue, and that's all we need to do. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, and I don't care how many people watching. I try to still have my judgment that I have. I know that one person is watching, and me, I know this person real well. My son, BJ, he and Andrew used to play basketball together. He's watching me too. Mm-hmm. And he says his life have to mean something. Can't let him just die in vain like that. This can make a very strong statement to EC's future. That situation should never be able to happen again. The officer must be held accountable. The law must be changed in his name. He's talking about Andrew. And his family should receive money for his unlawful death. He has like 7 kids, man. That's the only way EC could possibly feel a little more justified and stop the possibility of any riots that would really mess our city up. My son, about the same age as Andrew. I know his family well. I'm not contrary to anything we are doing, y'all. But like I say, my God, the one person that I try to fulfill my judgments with, I was going to make a statement. Instead of just talking about it, BJ sent $100 to me. Let's set up a Andrew Brown relief fund. I'm going to take $500 a month now of my city salary and give to the family. Attorney, how do we set up that's such a fund?
Oh, I'll have to get back to you on that, if I may, Mayor
Well,
Pro Tem.
let's try to have that done by Monday. In case what we are going to try to do does not work, that family is going to still need support. Man. So let's get everybody involved, the city, all these supporters. Let's show it. But that's what I plan to do. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Let me go to Mr. Atkins and then back to you, Councilman Horton. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just going to be brief because the family and the council and our community members know where I stand on this issue. And I just want to, again, reassure the family that we stand with you. Our prayers are with you. We're praying for God's grace, strength, and peace to be with you guys through this process. And I know that it's hard. I can't begin to say that I know how you guys feel because I don't. However, I just want to let you know that you have council members that stand with you through this. And just on a little funny note to try to share some laughter, after the last 2 days of protesting, I didn't know how out of shape I was. Uh, just to give a little, a little laughter to try to, bring some cheer in the midst of all that's going on. Andrew Brown, his life has definitely changed me because with all the processing that we've been doing, his death has not been in vain. He's brought movements, he's brought people out that has never been out. And that's what we need. Even the protests that we've had over the past couple of days, it has been peaceful. I'm in a meeting. It's been peaceful. There has not been any violence that I know of. And that right there, hats off to our citizens for continuing to protest peacefully. There have been no riots that I know of. And so that speaks volume about our community. Even as we mourn, it speaks volume. There's a lot of people outside right now. They're watching. There's a lot of news outlets that's streaming this meeting right now that I didn't even know. They're streaming this meeting live as we go through. And so I just want to take time to thank the community for continuing to protest and protest peacefully to try to show that, yeah, we're mourning, yeah, we're hurt. We want answers. We want transparency. We're going into 72 hours of this thing, and still there's no answers, and it's like each day that goes by, that pain and that anger, it gets harder, because there has not been any transparency. And then when we look at some of the videos that have been put up, there's still, nothing, and as Councilman Brooks was saying, I'm not going to take it to the point where he did and point fingers at the county and the county commissioners. I'll keep that part to myself. However, again, to you, the family, being that y'all here in the room and there's family members that's watching and listening, you have our support. All we can do is what we can do. And we will continue. If this process does not go through, we're still going to walk with you. We're still going to pray for you. And we're still going to be everything that we need to be in your time of despair. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
And thank you, sir. Councilman Horton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I dare not echo the sentiments of Mr. Atkins, but y'all could look at me and tell that I've been affected by all this walking and whatnot because of my condition. But to the family, as you all already know, you know where my heart is. It's just a sad situation, and I would ask the council members that maybe, even though we all agree, maybe the protocol was not the best, but dealing with the pain and when you've been out here doing all that we've been doing to try to support them, I just thank y'all for us all getting on one accord, because I pride myself at being a member of this council, because we are a unified council. And I thank the mayor and Mayor Pro Tem and council members, because y'all didn't have to come, but you came because you wanted to see this family get help. And I really appreciate that. And I thank our manager. He told me in the beginning, he said, well, Councilman Horton, you know our policy. We'll see what we could do. And I'm just glad that they were able to come. And I
So I want to be slow to say we're continuously taking notes. As it relates to doing a budget amendment, I won't know that until maybe next week. We do have interlocal agreements. We do have to spend some money on hotels and things of that nature. So I'm working through that process now, and we're trying to do it as creatively as we can to protect the budget. But we may need to do a budget amendment, but it's just too early to tell if I will or if I won't have to do one at this point. But as soon as I know, I'll definitely give this council an update.
Please.
I definitely will. I do want to, while I have the microphone, if it's okay with you, Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I do want to thank all of the officers who are here. When this happened, I gave one directive, and that directive was to protect the citizens of Elizabeth City, provide a safe environment for all citizens to exercise their First Amendment right. That is the only directive I gave. That is the only one I care about. That is the only one that I'm monitoring and watching. And so in that conversation, I've had many conversations with community stakeholders from all the universities, Centera, Neat School, public schools, and that's my initiative. That's my directive. Tomorrow morning at 11 a.m., Spectrum TV, CNN is trying to log on, NPR. We're going to be right out front in front of this building, and we're going to talk about that same thing that you just said, sir, Councilman Atkins, and that is we're going into what we know as training managers. We know that there's a phase 2 of these types of events, and phase 2 is the weekend. And what happens on the weekends is that you get influx of people from different cities and states, and they are known as nomads. And they show up in your city and they wreak havoc and then they leave. And I'm so proud of the citizens of Elizabeth City and how they have conducted themselves. And I'm so proud of the law enforcement carrying out my directive of no matter where that protest goes, support them and protect them and create an environment where they can do it peacefully and do it without fear and with no feelings of retaliation. And so they have done that, and I'm very, very thankful to those officers on the ground for doing that for the city of Elizabeth City. And so tomorrow morning, we will push that same narrative that to our citizens, when you see something or someone who may come in and be adverse to what we are trying to achieve here, to identify them such that our law enforcement officers can remove them. As a manager, it is my request that every single citizen, everybody watching, all 6,000 people is watching today, all millions of people who have been watching since day one, is that I need everybody's eyes on this matter. I don't want any distractions. And I love the way that the citizens have done it because they have raised the awareness, but they have created no distractions. And so to that point, we want to continue that, and we don't want to allow any distractions. That's my time. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
And thank you, sir. There is a call for the question on the floor, which means what we have to do now, and it would have been done immediately after he called for the question, but he directed something else to you.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're saying I don't get a chance to...
There is a call for question, and when you have call for the question, it's
okay.
just a matter.
It's okay. It's okay. It's good. It's good.
When we have a call for the question, it's just a matter of you all voting to see if you're ready for the call for the question. If you're not ready, then we go back to discussion. So all of those in favor of going for the question, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. Any opposed? 2. The 3, the majority has it. So we're ready to go to the question. That is the motion that's on the floor. And do you need to have the motion repeated?
Yes, repeat the motion.
Madam Mayor, the motion is that the letter that our attorney has, letter number 2, that we would move forward in sending that to the Pasquotank County Sheriff, to the district attorney, and to the SBI, asking that the body cameras footage be released, and subsequently, Mr. Freeman, move forward to the court.
If denied.
If denied.
Okay, you've heard it. So now we're ready to vote.
Did he put in, I think you said the DA and the...
Yeah, I put them
Sheriff.
all 3.
Put the sheriff in there
I put them all
Yes.
3 in there.
I think that's what he said
Should
earlier.
have been more than 12, but it's okay.
All right, all of those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. And that is unanimous. So I think the city manager has his instructions. But I do want to say before we adjourn is that, did you have something to say? Because I can say mine just before I gavel this out.
I hear my hand up along. You didn't. Can I talk now? I wanted to.
Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
You wanted to talk about questions, so we had to go and vote on the question.
Okay.
He had his hand up
Okay,
for
we're good. So
something
my
else.
hand's up too.
Okay, all right. Councilman Atkins.
Yes, Madam Mayor. I just have a question. Did it need to be on the agenda for us to enter into a state of emergency?
Excuse me?
Did it have to be on our agenda for us to have discussion about us entering
Yes,
into
Yes,
this?
sir.
because
For
it's-
an emergency
that's
meeting, we
emergency,
can only
yeah.
deal with the issues on the agenda.
That's
all I
right.
wanted to know. Well,
Mhm.
okay. We need,
All right, yes, sir.
we definitely
Councilman
need to
Brooks?
consider that.
Yes. This council that we have this time, the time I've been on council, this council has been the even when we disagree and come to a solid level of understanding. And that's what I like about it. We, like I said, came out with a rocky start, but we came to the decent conclusion. And I, what I wanted to talk about when we talk about the custodial party, and see what I was stuck on is the fact that the county is part of the city. So I don't see no problem in us going through the process that we voted unanimously to go forward with. The thing wasn't to force anyone to do anything. We know doing nothing is not an option, and we are responsible for the citizens in the little city also. And I ain't rehashing because we done talked all this and it's getting late. But as we was talking and stuff, and I moved to it that thing because I am a minister of the gospel as you are and stuff, and it hurts. Anytime a loved one is taken away from you, it hurts. You know, and most of the time when I'm walking, I have my headphones on, and I always listen to the song of the Five Blind Boys, the gospel group, and the title was "It Could Have Been Me."
Mm.
And see, when I think it could have been me, when I think of those words, it's not like you would never have thought last year this time that something like this that's been happening all the United States could come to a small town called Elizabeth City. You know, so when I think it could have been me, we got to have compassion and accept our being accountable and responsible as being part of the county. So, and like I said previously, doing nothing is not an option. If you do something and the courts fight against it, or the custodial party fight against it, we did all that we know to do. And that's what we're doing now, all that the city is able to do within the limits of the law, right? And we have no control of what the custodial party or the court say, but in 3 days, if they decide they didn't want to release the body cam, we can request it through the Superior Court. We can partition the court. So everything is what we set out to accomplish. Today, I think we did well and accomplished it. I think the vote wasn't right. I think even in the midst of a rocky start, we all came to the same conclusion, you know. So whenever something like this, and I love the thought that the Mayor Pro Tem say to you, you got to understand is that in times like this, in an untimely death, you know, the families are not always prepared economically, you know. And so I agree with Mayor Pro Tem. And if they set up, whether it's through the city, but if they set up some kind of fund, I'll be more than happy to donate. So we'll keep that in mind, because we not, it just don't, it don't end when your loved one passed and they bury him. That's not where it ends. Oftentimes, that's where it starts. The pain and the memories don't go with that person. It stays with you. And so that's a support that the city has, is trying to give the you in the passing of your loved one. Thank you, Mr.
All right, yes, Councilman Horton.
And I know I'm the one that said that I wanted to end this so the family could go and, you know, I see they're emotional. But I do have one question, Mr. Freeman.
Mm-hmm.
The letter number 2 is already drafted, correct?
Yes, sir. Both
Now-
of them are, yes, sir.
Okay, but the one that we voted to go with. Now, That requires the mayor's signature, I believe.
I did not add lines to the letter because I was unsure of who would want to sign, and I didn't want to place names on there and then show that they didn't sign. So the way that it's drafted, I would just, it could just be the mayor and the mayor pro tem, or it could be every member that's here. There's a space either way.
This is the reason I'm asking. It's 4:38. What's the process of that being delivered? Because if it's delivered Monday, we've lost time.
Yeah, so I'm gonna walk it down.
Okay. And does it have to happen before 5 o'clock?
I believe they close at 5.
Okay, so we need, so.
And I do want to make
just-
one correction.
Yes.
Perquimans County was not involved. Perquimans County Sheriff's Department was not involved in this situation.
I have a final statement to make. I know time is of the essence, but I would like to say to the family, we're working in as much as we can do as a council, because there's been an emergency meeting on Wednesday of the council, emergency meeting today. And when you look around and you see council members missing, please do not assume that they were not interested in coming to the meeting. Emergency meeting has to be done 6 hours prior to us meeting, and then some cannot make that turnaround, especially if they're working. So I also want to say is that we will be making a statement tomorrow. Mr. Freeman, our city manager, has told you that he, Chief Buffalo, and I will be making a statement to the television. We'll be on TV tomorrow, and we'll be in front of City Hall, and anybody who wants to come is fine. It will be streamed, so those who have things, if you're going on Facebook, I'm not a Facebook person, but you'll be able to do it then. And you must understand that it was in the purview of the county to come forth first, county commissioners, chairman of the county commission, prior to we're taking over, that is the head of state for the city. But they have been given time to come forth. So where are you trying to go now, as much time as I gave you? You sit there. And we're going to make sure we get the paper over. But I want you to know that we're all concerned, and we're working behind the scene. And even though they said we started with a rocky start, that's because I am one for protocol. Someone has to have a cool head, because we don't want people coming back later and saying, you shouldn't have done that, because they're watching us. But you must know, family, that according to the law, according to our attorney, you can do it. You can file it because it's on you, and you can get it done faster than anyone else. Now, I'm going to ask Attorney Morgan, can you give them a copy of this law that you have given us?
Yes, ma'am, I'll be happy to.
Okay.
I'll give them mine,
just
Madam
know that ours is actually just showing you we care, because chances are, since we're not listed, where we can actually get it done, but we're doing it to show you that we're doing something.